Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be comparing some basic bread making results between our Ninja Foodi Pressure Cooker with Smart Lid, our Whirlpool Convection Microwave, and our Frigidaire Gallery Induction range. So you ready? Let's get into this. For our test, we just did a really basic bread recipe. We didn't want to do anything really extravagant or anything. We just wanted to show you the differences between the three machines and how effectively they can each complete those tasks. So whenever possible, we tried to keep everything exactly the same. For our dough, we did everything in our KitchenAid mixer and mixed all the ingredients for all three loaves at the same time. That way we were able to make sure that everything was as consistent as possible. The first thing you have to do after mixing your ingredients and kneading your dough, if you're using active dry yeast, is something called proofing. In a nutshell, what that is creating an environment for the dough to rise a little bit before you bake it. That usually involves temperatures right around 100 degrees and a little bit of a humid environment. For our Ninja Foodi Pressure Cooker with Smart Lid, that was actually a really easy part since there's an actual setting in the machine specifically for that. So really all we had to do for proofing on that was to put a little bit of water in the machine, throw in the dough, and run a proofing cycle for it for about 50 minutes. When that finished up, all we had to do was check the dough and make sure it expanded at least to double its size. And since it had, we were ready to cook. In this case, we set the machine to steam and crisp, set the temperature at 350, and set the timer to 30 minutes. And after about 25 minutes or so, when we checked the bread, it turned out that it was ready, so we went ahead and pulled it out of the machine and set it on a rack to cool. Making the bread in our convection microwave was a little bit different. Since that doesn't have a proofing function, we had to get a little bit creative. So what we did was boil some water, pour it into a bowl, set that bowl into the bottom of our microwave, put the dough up on the top shelf, and close up the microwave and just let it sit for about 50 minutes. You're not trying to cook it, you're just trying to proof it, so we're not actually turning on the microwave or anything. In essence, all we're really doing is creating a warm, humid box and letting science do its thing.
That's what she said.
When time was up, we checked on our dough and looked like everything was good, so it was time to go ahead and bake. So we preheated the convection microwave to 350 degrees, and when that was ready, we went ahead and threw in our bread for 35 minutes. Now keep in mind, we're really just baking this. We don't have the air crisp function that we do on the pressure cooker. So what we did, after about 10 minutes of baking or so, we went ahead and opened up the microwave and brushed on a thin coat of oil over the top. That way we give it a little bit of a chance to brown the rest of the way. At the end of the cycle, you see the bread looked really good, but it looks a lot different from the stuff that came out of the pressure cooker. It's still a much lighter color than the stuff that came out of the pressure cooker, and the exterior is not as crunchy, but for the most part, it looks to be about the same size and the same consistency. Our third option was our Frigidaire Gallery Induction range. For most people, this is probably the way you're used to making bread. Once again, we don't have a proofing function, so we had to follow the same basic guidelines. Boil water, pour it into a bowl, put that bowl in the bottom of the oven. Then we put our container with our proof dough on the shelf right above it. After that, we just closed up our oven for about an hour and let it proof. Remember, just like the microwave, we're not actually turning the machine on, we're just creating an environment for the proofing to happen. So checking in after about an hour or so, as you can see, the size has doubled, so we were ready to go ahead and bake. So we went ahead and preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and when that was ready, we went ahead and threw in our dough. Again, we're not using any kind of air crisp function with our range, just like the microwave. So about 10 minutes into our bake, we went ahead and opened it up, brushed a little bit of oil onto this as well, and let it kind of continue on. And in the same amount of time it took in our microwave, we had finished bread. The results on this loaf were almost identical to what we got out of our convection microwave, except you can see here that the color came out quite a bit darker. Our closer look at our bread after everything cooled down, you can see that the stuff that we did in the pressure cooker was a little bit lighter and a little bit fluffier. The loaf has got a really nice crunchy exterior. The flavor was really good, and really we don't have anything to complain about as far as the results go. The total time to make our bread in the Ninja Foodi Pressure Cooker was 50 minutes on the proof and an additional 25 minutes on the cook. When we started the steam and crisp function on our pressure cooker, it does take a little bit of time to preheat, but that was under 5 minutes and we could do it with the bread in the machine already, so no big deal. So including our mixing time, you're talking about a loaf of bread in about an hour and a half. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. As far as our bread from the convection microwave oven, as you can see, this was the lightest colored bread of our three. And remember, that's even with brushing it with oil about a third of the way through the bake to get it darker. Cutting into the bread, there's a nice light crunch to the crust. The bread came out nice and fluffy, even though it's not quite as fluffy as the stuff from the pressure cooker. However, that's not really a complaint. The bread was really good. Total time on this would have actually been a little bit longer. You've got the 15 minutes of prep, and you've got that same 50 minutes of proofing time. We baked this loaf for 35 minutes and we used all 35 minutes of that time. But with our convection microwave, you got a couple of extra things you have to think about. To do the proofing, we had to boil water and that took about 5 minutes. Also, the microwave had to preheat before we put our bread in, so that was another 10 minutes or so. So our total time with the convection microwave is just under 2 hours at 115 minutes. So roughly 30 minutes slower than our pressure cooker. For our range option, we followed the exact same formula we did for the microwave. When that was done, the bread was almost identical to what we got out of the microwave, other than the color being a little bit darker. It's got the same amount of crunch to the crust. It's nice and fluffy on the inside, but again, still not quite the results we got out of our pressure cooker. And once again, we're still talking about a shade under 2 hours. Now keep in mind the recipe that we're using here for our bread was very basic. There's a lot of things you're going to be able to make in the oven that you're not going to be able to make in a pressure cooker, especially when you're talking about the size constraints. And different recipes have different requirements. The point of this comparison wasn't really to say that one method is better or worse than any other method, but probably more to shine a light upon things you can do that you might not have known that you can do. In any case, all 3 loaves of bread came out fantastic and we were really happy with all the results. And be able to make a loaf of bread from beginning to end in under 2 hours, that's pretty good. If you'd like a little more info about any of the machines we worked on today, we do have Amazon links to them down in the description of the video. Also, if you'd like to see a little bit more detailed video about the making of this bread recipe, we do have it linked up top here for you as well. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Joe's Phenomenal, you can watch a couple more videos or you can check us out online at joesphenomenal.com. I thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your busy day to watch this video. It really means a lot to me and I can't wait to see you back again here really soon. So until that time, I'm Joe and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.